Alrighty. Just give me 1 minute. Welcome, and thank you for attending the Colorado Plumbing Board's stakeholder meeting via webinar today. The date is December 12th, 2022, and the time is 8:31 a.m. Before we get started, we would like to introduce the staff members from the Division of Professions and Occupations that are present. My name is Darcy Magnuson, and I'm a regulatory analyst with the division. Also attending is Joyce Young, Program Director of the Plumbing Board, Cheryl Ruiz Lucero, Program Director of Inspections, John McGee, Plumbing Inspector Supervisor, and James Fernandez, Plumbing Inspector Supervisor. Due to concerns regarding COVID-19, the division has transitioned to a platform that is 100% virtual, and we appreciate your flexibility. As many of you have been to DORA stakeholder meetings before, we would like to reiterate the importance of your comments today. DORA makes decisions every day that may affect your life and your business, so your input is vital in the rulemaking process. Throughout this process, our goal is to create regulations that clarify and explain legislation, ensure minimum competency to enter and continue to practice, and provide only what is absolutely necessary for consumer protection without creating unnecessary barriers to the marketplace. Your input will be part of the information that goes to the board as the board considers adopting revisions to the rules. More specifically, today we will be discussing proposed revisions to multiple rules regarding plumbing code update. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the board's website by the close of business tomorrow. As the stakeholder meeting is held solely by webinar, please raise your hand using the hand icon if you would like to speak, and we will unmute your line so you will be heard by everyone, or you can type your comment in the question section and we will read it aloud. Before we start taking comments, we ask that anyone providing comments please state your name and who you represent, if anyone. Please feel free to provide either general comments on the rule changes or specific comments on the proposed language. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 to 5 minutes and try not to repeat something that was already said. Stating you're in full agreement with someone else works just fine and will be noted. If you are using audio through your computer, please remember to put any phones on vibrate or turn them off. And whether you are using computer or phone audio, try to keep background noises to a minimum when speaking. So Joyce or John, before we start taking comments, did you want to provide any other information about the proposed changes?
I don't have any until we get through the items as we go through the changes.
Okay.
And mine
John,
will be limited toward the end.
Okay. John, did you want to direct me on the best way to, and can you see, it doesn't look like you can see my full screen with the comments on the side. Is that accurate?
No, you can't quite see the comments on there, and I don't have anything at this point, but
Okay.
certainly will be available.
Let me zoom out. That's probably too small. That's still not. Is that better? Can you see the comments now?
Yes, we can see the comments.
Alrighty. So if anyone would like to provide feedback, you can use the Q&A function of the webinar, or you can use the chat and we will monitor to see that, or you can raise your hand and we will unmute your line. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and drop into the chat the draft rules that we're showing on the screen. Sometimes scrolling bothers people, which is understandable. And then also drop in the written comments that we have received so far, so you can look at those. All of the information about anything related to rulemaking is always posted on the board's website under the public notices tab. So the links that I'm including in the chat, you can find those on the board's website, and they'll be updated as we continue to receive written comments. It's the same place where you'll be able to find the recording from today's meeting in case you want to listen to it again or share it with anyone else.
And Darcy, could you drop your ribbon up there? Maybe minimize that ribbon. That on the far right hand side of the ribbon at the top. That'll give us more bandwidth there. Yeah, that should. Yeah, there we go. All right. So if you just want to, John, if you just want to walk through and Darcy will scroll along as we go.
Okay. Basically, we're just changing the dates of the code books that we'll be using for this next 2021. So that'd be the 2021 edition. First printing. Reason we call for the first printing is if there happens to be some additions afterwards, the statute and the rules say that we won't adopt any of those following corrections or not corrections, but if they would happen to change the same 2021 code by some kind of amendment that ICC does, we won't be using that. That one will only use this first edition.
Thanks, John. And this is Darcy, and that's a statutory requirement that we have to
Yes.
include the specific date of the edition. So the board doesn't have any discretion on that.
Yep. Okay, Darcy, just a minute there. 3:12:10. Let's go to 3:12:10 right quick, if you would, please. There it is. Back up, just there you go. We did discover that P, small letter P, was should be actually say 312.10.1 testing, because that's the one they wanted to replace with, and somehow it ended up with 312.10.1 inspections, and that one should be corrected to say 312.10.2 testing.
So do I need to make that change right now, John?
Yes, because the section that we have your marking over there, that actually is the section that they wanted to rewrite. So.
Okay. Okay, can you tell me what needs to be changed, John? So where?
Yeah, up on small letter P where it says IPC section 312.10.1, it should say .2
.2. Okay.
instead of 1. Yeah. And then it should say testing instead of inspections.
Okay. And we have 2 raised hands. Would you prefer that we take those now in case they're related to what we're talking about? I guess we can ask. Is that
Sure.
Joyce, John? Okay. Let me get, I have too many windows. Joyce, do you mind calling and unmuting? I saw it was Joel Segura and Kyle Lair, but.
Not at all. Oh, I don't think I can. I'm not able to.
Okay.
Since I'm a panelist instead of a co-host.
Get over here. I've got too many screens. All right, Joel Segura, I have unmuted you. We should be able to hear you. Joel Segura. We should be able to hear you. Okay. I will go on to Kyle Lair. I've unmuted you. Kyle Lair, you're unmuted. If you would like to provide comments.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, Darcy. My name is Kai Lear. Everyone there knows me except you, I think. I'm the former chief inspector to the plumbing board. My chat thing does not appear to be working. I had two questions. You're kind of scrolling through these pretty fast. I had a comment at a prior section, and I didn't know if you wanted us to, once we got our foot in the door, to go through everything we had, or to wait till as you're scrolling through to throw our hand up again.
Yeah, my apologies for misreading your name and adding an L in there. I can go back up. I think it's probably easiest to go through as John's talking and then to add in the comments as well, if that's easier, and I'll just try to catch the raised hands. So if you want to
Great.
tell me the section that you want me to go to, I'm happy to go there.
I am interested back up under general interpretations under subheading D, item 3, amendments to the Colorado codes. Should be on bottom of page 5. Oh, there we go. Okay, as it reads, it allows any city, town, or county which adopts more stringent standards than the Colorado Code shall furnish a copy thereof to the board. The function of the rules is not to change any of the statutes, but is to explain them and make them a little more understandable, and in some cases actually lay out a procedure. This particular one fails to mention that the Colorado codes must be amended, not just adoption of another code. And I would like to see some verbiage. I have verbiage if you'd like to listen.
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. Let me read through it and I'll tell you where to add. Any city, county, town, county, or city and county which adopts more stringent standards than the Colorado Code shall furnish, and this is what I propose to add, shall amend the Colorado codes. And that code section is statute is 12-155-106, parenthesis 2, and shall, and then it goes back to furnish a copy thereof to the board for review and approval prior to enforcement. There's probably going to be a lot of hoopla over that, and John and James both are up to date on my concerns about this. Since I've gone back into the private sector, I have encountered many jurisdictions that I'll of course claim home rule, which they might have, which does not come into play with these statutes or board rules. And they are adopting codes and enforcing them. Most of them, when I explain how the statute is written, even though it does not clarify in rules, they pretty much go along with it, and once they understand it, they're okay with it. However, there are several that think that they are without exception and they can do whatever they want to. This causes us a great deal. The reason the statutes call for the board to submit a statewide code is for unification, so that contractors can work in different cities and counties without trying to learn a multitude of different codes. This is a problem because there are a multitude of different codes. I found way more than I understood when I was chief inspector. I would propose these changes for consideration simply to make it easier and more unified as the international code was designed to be across the state for all the contractors. That's all I got on that one. Thank you, Darcy. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Lair, and sorry for the name again. Can you take a look at my comment? I have in there, so just so I have it correctly, after Colorado codes, adding the language shall amend the Colorado codes 12-155-1062 and shall furnish a copy thereof to the board for review and approval prior to enforcement. Is that correct?
Well, where you have 12-155, that probably should be in parentheses or as provided for in this Colorado revised statute. CRS would be fine.
Okay,
Just to clarify that section is not the code. It provides for the amendment to the Colorado code as adopted by the board. Just to
Okay.
clarify that.
okay,
Nope, that looks good.
alrighty. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy.
Mr. Joel Segura, I've unmuted you one more time. Just because your hand is raised. We should be able to hear you if you speak. All right. You're unmuted on our end. So you should be able to speak if you unmute on your end. While we monitor that, I'm going to go ahead back down to page 7.
Darcy, there's several people on the chat that note that the chat has been disabled.
Yeah, so if you use the Q&A, that's probably the best.
Okay, great.
Rich Anderson, I have some comments based on 403.1 and 403.2. And are we there? Doesn't look like we're there yet. And I do see, yeah, so you can use the Q&A and we'll read your comments. Mr. Anderson, we would get to 403.1 and 403.2. If you want to raise your hand, that would be great. And John, I will hand it back over to you because we're back to where we left off.
All righty. Yep, that was a change that we made there on that one. So looks like you got that one covered, Darcy. Thank you. All right. Yeah, this is where Rich wanted to make a comment on the multi-user facilities.
All right, Rich Anderson, you are unmuted. We should be able to hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So my concerns with deleting exception 2 and replacing it with this wording is you're not going to allow any gender neutral or all gender restrooms to serve towards the total minimum fixture count. So if someone chooses to put in a multi-purpose or a multi-gender restroom with this wording, where the second, after the first comma, it says the fixtures within shall not be allowed to count towards the total minimum fixture count set forth in 403.1. The way this is worded is going to tell somebody if they choose to install a gender neutral restroom, you can't count them towards the total number of fixtures. That would require somebody to not only install an all gender restroom, but then who installs other restrooms to meet the minimum fixture count. The model code states where multiple user facilities are designed to serve all genders, the minimum fixture count shall be calculated at 100%. This basically, the model code just says, hey, you don't separate your occupancy classification 50% male, 50% female. You just figure 100% on the fixture calculation. And then the model code continues to go on based on total occupancy load in such multiple user facilities. Each fixture type shall be in accordance with the 117 in each urinal shall be provided in a stall. each fixtures. So my suggestion would be to keep model code. There's been a lot of discussion on this wording to allow for gender neutral restrooms to count towards the fixture count and to be an exception to separating the total number based on sexes.
Can you say that one more time, your suggestion?
To just stick with the model code language because it's been nationally vetted, and changing this could possibly break the intention of what was put in the model code.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
can put the model code language in the Q&A if you want, so that if you want to post it.
If you, yeah, that would be great. I can copy and paste it then into your.
That's
written
probably
comment.
easier.
Yeah, that would
Yes.
work.
And then if that's good and nobody has any comments based on what I said, I'd like to move on to 403.2 for separate facilities also, when ready.
I think that's fine to take your other comment now and we can move back if we need to.
Okay, scroll back up because you,
Sorry, 403.2.
it's right underneath it where it says delete
see.
exception 6 in its entirety. And some of the reason statement that I read was because it's already covered in 403.1.1. But technically it's not covered in 403.1.1 because 403.2 is specific about the requirement for restrooms for each sex. So when you get over a certain occupancy load, the code tells us we have to provide separate facilities for separate sexes. Now, by deleting exception 6, you would unintentionally not allow for any gender neutral restrooms anywhere in Colorado, because we would still have to have separate facilities for sexes. Because that is what 403.2 is for separate facilities. So you can't apply the fixture calculation to this requirement. They're separate code sections, and that's why they're written separately on the national model code. And by the way, I failed to introduce myself. For those that don't know me, my name is Rich Anderson, and I am Director of PMG Technical Resources with the International Code Council. Technical resources, not national, but with the International Code Council. So we're the ones that publish and promulgate the IPC. I think everybody knows. Just change national to international at the beginning of that for ICC. And those were my only comments. I wanted everybody to take that into consideration.
Okay, thank you. Let me get back to raised hands. I have Kai Lair. We should be, I see your hand is raised. We should be able to hear you if you unmute.
I don't see an option to unmute.
We can hear you right now. So
Good.
Yeah.
Good. As far as the exception to 403.1.1, I don't have a problem with that. However, I do notice that it says at the tail end of that each urinal that is provided shall be located in a stall. It would be my suggestion that in definitions, you add the definition of stall. This should be a privacy stall with a door, much like a water closet currently. An open urinal with just two sides is not considered a stall. And with multi-general or mixed people allowed in there, there's no privacy with just simply two petitions between each urinal. It's not a stall.
Okay. Any,
You might add in there just as a parenthesis or whatnot. It should be a privacy stall with door.
okay,
That's good. Thank you, Darcy.
thank you. And then let me just pull. And we did receive a written comment from Zachary Nyhughes. Rich Anderson's comment aligns with my comment to adopt unamended sections 403.1.1 and 403.2. Okay, that's added in there, the language. So thank you, Mr. Anderson, for that.
I had another a follow-up comment based on what I believe Kyle said, if I can.
Sure.
He was mentioning, I believe if we scroll back up to that section, adding the stall, the urinals being in a stall for multi-gender and just are allowed to be visually screened from the toilet area or in a stall. So if you have a separate urinal room that was intended for males only, that was part of the main room, those urinals in the IPC right now would not have to be in an individual stall if they were like in a separately screened space or room from where the toilets are. Either way, I'm good with it. I just wanted everybody to be aware of that requirement as well, that's an option in designing these.
Okay.
We don't
Can
want to
we-
take that design option away from people by writing wording that requires, even if they're in a separate space, visually screened from the toilets, and they don't need to be in an individual stall at that point.
Okay. What's a best way to phrase that?
I would say maybe to Kyle's point, if you do in a privacy stall, you maybe an exception, and Kyle might be able to elaborate a little bit also on that. That says exception when urinals are visually screened in an approved manner. They shall not be required to be in an individual stall. Kyle, I don't know if that addresses your concern. We would also italicize the word approved so that it references back where acceptable by the code official in the definitions. That might be the fix. Kyle, I don't know if you have any follow-up comments to that.
Am I unmuted, Darcy?
You are unmuted. We can hear
Oh,
you.
okay. Very good. I'm sorry. Rich, I don't understand. You're telling me that you want a multi-use gender restroom and then you're going to have separate rooms for urinals and water closets? I'm not understanding.
It is a design feature that I've seen throughout my career where you go in, say, to a large room. Maybe you have urinals on one side of a wall, visually screened from where the toilets are. Therefore, they're in technically a separate room within the same space, and all the openings are cased, right? There's no doors. So you would walk to the left to go to where all the toilet stars are, and then maybe you would walk into a right-hand side room that has all of the urinals that are visually screened. So unless you walk particularly in that room, you can't see the urinals. And then, of course, your lavatories are in a different space altogether for everybody to use, kind of like the toilets. I don't know if that explains it. I'm seeing a diagram in my head. I don't know if it's helping you, Kyle.
No, I can visualize it. I've done many years of planner review. I think you've got an opening with no door, no prevention from females walking into the male area. I don't see how that solves the problem by putting it in a separate room to give them privacy.
I'd ask you today, what stops a woman from walking into a men's restroom except for a sign? There's nothing illegal about it.
So I think at this point in time,
Yes.
maybe best that we have the comments there for the board to consider. And
Sounds
then if
good.
you want to provide any other written comments to help clarify, I think that would be helpful as well. So
And-
if, go ahead, Joyce.
This is Joyce. I just want to note too, so we've got the comments about leaving that section as is per the current code. That's one comment. And then I just want to make sure we're clear that what we're editing now is should the exceptions that are written here that you see be adopted, that is the language that you're assuming that the gender neutral bathroom option to count towards fixtures is not adopted, but what you see here as written is adopted. That is what you're editing to. So should this rule be adopted as you see written here, kind of get to those changes, make sure that the changes you provided are from that vantage point rather than, accepting the code as is. I just want to comment, just make sure that the edits are as you intend them to with what we're looking at.
Okay, and then we have a raised hand, Zachary Nyhughes. We should be able to hear you.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thanks. I had provided a written comment. And sorry, Zach Niehaus, and I'm just representing myself on this matter. I had provided a written comment, and I had mentioned in the chat that my comment aligns with Rich Anderson's to adopt these sections unamended. And I just wanted to kind of simplify. I know there's some additional things that have been added to the conversation, but I just wanted to kind of reemphasize the desire to adopt these sections unamended, because I think the model code addresses these topics and with the intent to allow multi-user, multi-stall facilities to be included in the plumbing fixture, the required fixture counts. And I just wanted to kind of reemphasize that, for building owners that want to provide this amenity to the occupants, the proposed edits would incur a lot of additional costs. And I just wanted to have that cost component to be part of this conversation, that adopting unamended would give building owners the most cost-effective option to providing multi-user, multi-stall facilities. And I think my written comment kind of covers that. I just wanted to make sure that that was captured in this meeting as well. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Anyone else on this section? If I've unmuted you already, I'm leaving you unmuted. Just I think that the back and forth tends to be helpful. But I don't see anyone that we haven't heard from with a raised hand. And I'm going to check the Q&A. So I think, John, if you're ready to move on, I think we can move on.
All righty, sounds good to me. Thank you.
I'd like to save frequently just in case something happens.
Sure.
And I'll scroll, John, you tell me when to stop. I'll try to stop on, it looks like here's a good place.
Yep. This one here is to address, there's no specific deal on dental chairs. We've had a lot of issues with how they should be protected against backflow. They wanted to use one backflow for multiple chairs. So if they have that, then they're not protecting from one chair to the other. So you could get contamination from one chair to the other if you don't do individual dental chairs. So that's our solution to address that issue about dental chairs.
And given the interest of time, I'm going to keep scrolling, and then if I see any raised hands, we can always go back if need be.
Sure.
And this looks like it's just a technical change. Is that right, John? For
Yes, right. Yeah, the change that was shown before didn't have the actual sections weren't compatible with what we were looking for, and it was looking for the two sections just above. So that was helpful from Kai happened to notice that for us. Thanks. Okay, this one on exception 2 spells out that we've had issues. The on-site waste treatment systems regulated by the Colorado Department of Health and Public Health and Education has their rules and regulations, and they won't allow floor drains from residential garages to go to their treatment system. So we've had to come up with a means that we could kind of go along with that and yet still maintain the plumbing code. So this was if they get approval through or a supervisor approval, then we can accept that through the code, except a floor trench drain in a utility building or a residential garage.
Darcy, may I?
yes, please.
I'm sorry, you were scrolling past. I've got two screens going and I lost track. And I had a comment just a little bit prior to this section.
Okay.
It is 421.7 for shower head locations. It is item V. I apologize. I was watching your screen looking for changes and the change was on my screen.
Yeah, I understand. Is this the right place?
This is correct here.
Okay.
There's a new section for shower head location. Shower heads, or the actual exception to it. Oh, now the copy I had the exception different. No, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Exception, shower of roll-in type stalls in accordance with 27 ANSI A117.1. It's the exception up at the top one. John, does that, I'm not familiar with that ANSI section. I don't have my book here. Does that exception going to allow that shower head to point at the door? Because the 421.7 prohibits the shower head so it won't discharge directly to the door. And I don't know what the design is for that ANSI standard, but it looks to me like that allows, if you build to the ANSI standard, you can put the shower where the shower head will point to the door, which is not something you really want, especially for somebody that's handicapped or possibly in a wheelchair.
I can look, Kai, that what it is just changing. That was the exception that was in the previous ones. And so we just changed that to 2017. And I think the idea was that whatever shower that was the roll-in type showers installed with accordance of the ANSI code the locations would be wherever they required them in the ANSI code. And so everything else. So if it's not an ANSI shower, then or a roll-in accessible shower, that 421.7 would dictate where that shower head has to be. But in the roll-in showers, they put the handheld showers typically go on the back wall. And so, but that's a handheld shower, right?
Okay, well, that's the part I wasn't clear on.
Yeah. And that's, like I said, that was something that came right out of the, that's been in 2018, also 2015, I believe, when that got changed. We kept allowed for whatever the design required by ANSI for a roll-in shower. Then I think that's the intent of the exception. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you're right about that being a handheld one, but honestly, I just saw that just a few minutes ago and I wasn't quick enough to get my ANSI standard down. So I just want to be sure it wasn't still allowing because typically the ANSI standard gives you the height, but it doesn't necessarily give you the location of the shower head.
Well, it tells you where the shower controls and the handheld, it gives you the little space where they have to be installed to make it an accessible shower, right?
I think it has the minimum height, but I'm not sure it specifies which wall. Just a food for thought thing. I just happened to see that when I was going down through it, and I realized that's not a change, but it just caught my eye, and I apologize for throwing a kink in there.
Do you want to note that, John, and then maybe take a look at it and see if we have it?
Sure.
We can come
Yep.
back to it. Okay. And then, we did receive a comment from an anonymous attendee related to the conversation up here. So I will add it in.
Okay.
And then read it. Commentary on additional cost as mentioned by Zach Niehaus. Sorry if I know I said it wrong to begin with, and I may have said it wrong now too. It is specifically part of the intent of the ICC's model codes that the code adoption process should not impose undue financial burden on owners and developers. The modification to 403.1.1 would put owners and tenants in a circumstance where they must choose to provide fixtures that are compatible with DEI initiatives, both public and corporate, and complying with the codes. So I will just note that was an anonymous attendee here, and then we can move back on to where we were on page 9, I believe, John.
Okay. I do have a clarification for Kai on that ANSI standard 608.4.2 standard roll-in showers. It says in standard roll-in showers, the controls and hand showers shall not be located above the seat. Controls and hand showers shall be located according to the following: on the back wall.
Huh. Okay. I said
Okay.
correct.
No problem.
Doesn't mean they can't put the shower head where it doesn't shoot out the door.
Well, the hand shower, hopefully they can adjust it to where it doesn't shoot out the door, right? There you go. So.
Okay. I think this is where we left off, John.
Yep, right.
I have an input on 701.2, Darcy, whenever my turn is.
Sure, go ahead.
The new exception, this is to the IPC, mentions residential garages. The IPC does not regulate residential buildings, the IRC does. So that language shouldn't be there.
Hickey.
What?
Nothing. No, we just put that section on both of them. So yeah.
That's what I figured. Also, I have been unable to find a definition of utility building. If this is in the IPC, which generally always regulates commercial buildings, that could be a large thing that they've got equipment in that could have oil drainage and whatnot. Might want to define utility buildings in both the IRC and the IPC, or just in the board rules here.
Now, that's the reason that we put in that it has to be approved through either the CDPHE rules or the sewer purveyor. So we have to have written approval before we'll allow it. Does that make sense?
Do you have that same verbiage in the IRC?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Darcy.
All righty, thank you.
So can I comment on something that Kyle just commented on, just so that everybody's aware, and just something for the board to consider? And there was some push in the scope in last code development cycle on the IPC, and I'm going to put the current exception in for the IPC in the chat for you, or in the Q&A.
Okay.
The exception now says that detached 1 and 2 family dwellings and townhouses not more than 3 stories in height above grade with separate means of egress and their accessory structures not more than 3 stories in height shall comply with this code or the International Residential Code. The push for that nationally was we have some jurisdictions that choose to just adopt the IPC for everything and not necessarily the IRC. My suggestion would be to bring this up to the board and see if they want to just amend the exception in 101.2 and remove shall comply with this code at the end there. And just leave the International Residential Code if that's what the board chooses to make clear to everybody.
Don't you think, Chris, that that's up to the administrative authority under which code they adopt to,
Right.
you know, each jurisdiction in Colorado is required to follow this code. So
Right.
it does adopt sections of the IRC. Those then are no longer sections of the IRC. They are provisions of the Colorado Plumbing Board Code.
I don't really have an opinion one way or the
Colorado.
other. I just wanted to make everybody aware of that change in wording from the 18 to the 2021. And then the board can do whatever they choose with that new change.
Yeah. Thanks, Rich. I'll check that.
Hey, Darcy, this is Joel Segura. Can you guys hear me yet?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, awesome. So it took me a while to get the audio to work, but I just have a couple clarification questions. One of them is going to be in the IRC for the fuel gas. It's a little confusing on how it's worded when you go to the code sections that are going to be adopted by the state. So when you look at it, it says R101 and R102, Chapter 2. And then it says Chapter 24, Sections 2411, G2411 to G2422. So is that saying that you're adopting all of Chapter 24 and then some reason saying Sections 2411 to 22 and the tables that are listed there?
Joel, are these sections we've already gone over? Do we need to go back up to get to where you're talking about?
Yeah, I just need clarification on that because
Is it up? What is it
It's
up on the something we've already passed, right?
yeah, it's up at the beginning where
All right.
where it shows what code sections we're adopting.
Okay, great. Let us just jump up there real quick.
Okay. Okay, go to IRC, the fuel gas code. You've got, now go down a little bit. And there you go. So you see where you've got Chapter 24 with a comma. Yep, right up in there. The first sentence there. So yeah. So Chapter 24, comma, sections 2411, G2411 to G22. So is it just those sections from Chapter 24? That's my question.
It looks like that is consistent with what has been in the past. Because it's not redlined for me, and I'll leave it, I guess, to John or James to comment.
Yeah,
And-
so John, is all of Chapter 4 of the IRC adopted, or is it just those sections that you're showing after where it says 2411 to 2422?
It's just a section, Joel.
Yeah,
It-
I think it's just those sections. It's not the entire 2020 chapter 24.
Okay, so what we need to do for your requirement on the test for the plastic piping on water heaters, that section is 2427.4.1 that you amended, but didn't adopt that code section from what I can see. So you might want to take a look at where it's only calling out G2411 to G2422 422. But the amendment for the residential piping for a water heater to be tested comes out of 2427.4.1.
Yeah, I think, is that covered in the next, it says and G2401.1 through table G
Yeah,
2428.3.
so we skip some sections and then we go through and cover them all the way to G24, 28, 3 and 4.
So it sounds like that 27 section, 2427 would be included in that.
Yeah, we go all the way to
Just the
24 to
table.
48, Joel, on there.
And so if you look at 2401.1 table, 2428.
I think it's through table G 2428.34.
So let's see what that is here. So your tables are,
Yeah, so it's G 2401.1 through table G 2428.3, section 4.
okay, so that'll incorporate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then, and G20 and G24, 48 of the IRC. So we're going all the way through those tables to G24, 48. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, that makes more sense to me. I appreciate that. And then I just have one more clarification comment on the what's not required for a permit. So it's not something that we've looked at, but it's something that's in the rules where it's
And-
talking about what's not required. Do we want to wait on that?
Yes, please.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Joseph Montoya. Your hand is raised. I've unmuted you.
Thanks, Darcy.
Where would you like me to go in the rules? What's your comment regarding?
The comment is that it is no longer the ANSI standard, it is the ICC 117.1. So reference to the ANSI standard is not in line with the 21 adoption. So it was the last comments that Kai was making on the shower before we went all the way back to the beginning.
It's under 421. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Ah, sorry, like, let me get that. I think this comment can be deleted, right? Is that right? We addressed the error, the issue.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm gonna strike that out and then get back to the shower heads. Okay,
Yeah, it is no longer the ANSI A117. It is now the ICC A117. Just clarification, that's all.
thank you.
And Darcy, that's A117 in your note there.
Oops.
ICC A117.
Okay. We got a question from Lucas Metz. Will a recording of this be sent out? I was late getting on. The recording will be posted on the board's website under the public notices tab by close of business tomorrow. If you have any issues finding it, you can always email me at the rulemaking inbox and I'd be happy to send you a link. All right, let me find where we were. We went through that. I think are we here, John?
Yep. I think we just, yeah, I think that's right. Might back up just to make sure. I don't think we missed anything.
Okay, let me
Darcy.
just save.
Yeah, no, that's where we're at. Yep. So we're good.
The RCI has some input on MM for cleanouts.
Okay,
The way this reads, it's requiring it has stipulations for the two-way fitting, a riser and so on. There should be verbiage in there to require that the clean out be installed within 5 foot of the inside of the building as in order to comply with Colorado Revised Statutes 12-155-103, so that would be under the board's authority. Anything past that, the board has no authority.
Hey, Kai.
Yeah.
That's required by code that it's installed at the junction of the sewer and the building sewer and the building drain. So it's
Yeah.
already required by code where it's located.
The code requires it to be at
No,
5
it
feet. or
requires it
just
at 30 inches, which is where the building drain and building sewer connect together, right?
I can't answer that.
The state amended the location of that, and it says up to 5 feet or the first joint is where the building drain would end.
I think you're correct. The problem with that's always been if it goes out past 5 feet, it's beyond board's authority line.
Hang on just a second.
I don't have enough books here to look everything up.
Okay. Well, here, here's section 708 in the code cleanouts. And 708.1.3 says the building drain, building sewer junction. The junction of a building drain and the building sewer shall be served by a cleanout that is located at the junction or within 10 feet of the developed length of piping upstream of the junction. For the requirements of this section, the removal of water closets shall not be required to provide clean out access. So what's that saying? And if you go and look at the definitions, it says it's 30 inches and that we haven't changed that in the code. So the requirement, yes, we go to 5 feet, but the requirement for the clean outs actually says at 30 inches. Right.
Okay.
Nick? That makes sense?
You rattle that off too fast. This exception or new portion to 708.1.3. Where do you get the 30 inches again in definition?
It's from the definitions of where the building drain stops and the building sewer starts. So look at the definition of a building drain.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. Good point, John. I draw that
Okay.
connection.
I mean, we still go to 5 feet, but the requirement for the clean out location is still in the code as 30 inches.
Gotcha. Now, it's calling for a specific two-way fitting. Are you not going to allow the two combinations?
No,
opposing?
either, if you look, it says either one, you can do a two-way fitting as long as it's not more than 4 feet in depth. If it's over 4 feet, then you have to use the back-to-back or combination fittings. And that was, they came up with the 4 feet because if it gets too deep, you can't tell which way the rod's going.
Yeah. So if it's less than 4 feet, you'll allow the two-way, right?
Allow it with a single riser.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Okay.
I'll erase that. Thank you.
I think we can go ahead and move on, John. And just in the interest of time, maybe we were an hour in and we scheduled this for 2 hours. So
Okay.
hopefully we will be able to get through everything. We're only on page 13 of 43. So if we can work a little quicker. We want to hear from
Sure.
everyone though.
Yeah, this on the roof extensions through the roof, if they're covering with whatever, solar panels. The code said 2 inches, which there's that there's no way to flash a pipe that's sticking through a roof at 2 inches. So we raised that to 4 inches. That's basically what it is. So they have to have that 4 inches through the roof if they put something over it.
John, This is Rich Anderson. Can I ask why you're suggesting to delete the except where the roof is to be used for any other purpose than weather protection? It shall be extended at least 7 foot above the roof. The intention of that section is to allow for vent pipes to be on a roof where there is a rooftop deck or something going on the rooftop, but we're explaining to them in the model code that you can't just come, you know, that 6 inches above the roof. When it's used for any other purpose, such as a rooftop deck, then those vents have to go 7 foot above the roof. Are you suggesting that it's okay to have the vent pipe 6 inches on a rooftop deck?
Let me look, Rich. I don't know. We didn't intend that in there, and I'm not sure. Let me look here right quick.
My simple suggestion would just be keep model code language, Darcy, because it allows for the use of a rooftop deck with vent penetrations.
Yeah, we'll look at that, Rich. Thanks.
Okay.
Let me mark that one down.
I have a comment related to the drawing on the dishwasher. We are showing that horizontal branch picking up the dishwasher as a 1.5 inch size, but common vent rules out of chapter 9 would state that that's a 2-inch pipe.
John, you want to just take a look at that and
You don't, and if you, it would be helpful to come back to, John, we'll leave the comments in there and we can take a look and at the drawing. I put it there.
yeah, I don't have the actual one in front of me, just what you have there. So it's, yeah, 1.5 inches. Yeah. Okay.
Alrighty, here we are. Type of fixtures, John.
John, you want me to kind of comment on this one? Because I kind of know some of the history of this code change and maybe where you were going with it.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. We just left it as it was before.
Mhm.
But where we on that combination waste and vent.
Yeah, there was a code proposal in for the development of the 2021 code by an engineer, and wanted to add take out the food waste disposals from being prohibited on combination waste and vent. And all Dora's doing here is keeping it as it was in 2018, that we're not going to put combination waste and vent when you have a food waste disposal, right, John?
Yep. That's the idea.
Great. Well said. Then I think we'll go ahead and move on.
Alrighty.
And these are all, stop me, John, if I go too fast. I'm just trying to get through.
Sure.
I had a quick little question about some stuff in section 9, John, and you don't have to scroll back up. It looked like some of the code sections were like scratched out more than once, even on the red. So I would just say just clerical is what it looked like to me.
Right. Well, yeah, any of those, what you see is there was, as we went through and found and did something and made the change. And then after rereading, oops, we missed that. So then we ended up having to redo those sections again. So that was just, just in the process of reviewing. Okay, let's see. Okay, this is basically the same thing as the floor drain that we looked at up in 701 up there. So it's just adding it to the IRC. Most of these things that you're seeing in the IRC came as our correction, as our changes made to the IPC. This was the board approved this Alumapex, so these sections were added per board's approval as an alternate material on these sections. And all these had to do with the ALPEX approved Alumapex plastic pipe for gas piping.
Darcy?
Yes,
Oh, I apologize. You're not to it yet. I lost my place again. Go ahead.
no problem. It's hard on several
I couldn't
screens.
read those page numbers as fast as you were going, and I thought you were ahead of me, but no, you're good.
Okay. Did you want to say anything about this one, John?
Yeah, well, it's just to clarify what type of hangers they need to have on there. So we just wanted to make sure that, that we covered that support of that type of CSST or PEX, ALPEX gas piping. Okay, this one, there's always been the argument about whether the gas turrets are considered the appliance or whether it's the appliance that it's the Bunsen burner, whatever it's connected. We just tried to clarify that we would accept a flexible connector as long as it's installed properly to valve gas, put a valve ahead of a gas turret, and they could use a flexible connector connected solid, as long as it was installed per 409. This is again the PEX AL exception, or that the board allowed as an alternate material. Sections covered, changed in the IFGC and the IRC. Oh, the testing section, yeah, okay. Oh, I'm sorry, back up, just back to that testing for plastic pipe. We did add a little bit to that one. That you just passed it there, Darcy, right at the very top, just above you. We did change that to test it with 5 PSI, eliminated the maximum, and then also allowed a 10-foot head water column head if they would like to do water column rather than air pressure. Okay, some of these sections we took out because they were conflicting with the most stringent part of the code.
Whoops, Darcy, I think you went past what I wanted to speak on. 24, where is it? 2418.2, right there. Oops. It's an amendment to add a new number 10 to section G 2422.1, which should be 0.1, but you're adding a section to that addresses schools and science rooms
Oh.
to the IRC. Don't think you need that one.
Nope.
Okay, so say that again.
The exception, I'm sorry, to the IRC section 2422(1) is not required.
That's,
Gas grids, so on and so on.
yeah,
This
yeah,
right,
that was a cut and paste from the IFGC.
so should I reject this insertion, John?
Yeah, well, we don't need that because we don't install gas turrets in a residential. Thanks, Kai. I missed that.
Let
It
me,
just kind of jumped out at me there.
it's not, okay. I'll clean up the formatting. Okay. And then I added the period there, so it's 2422.1. I think that's what Mr. Lair was saying.
Yeah. Mhm.
Anything here, John, or?
Mhm.
I have
Joyce?
something when
I
John
think
gets.
I think that, yeah, that's stepping over into what Joyce and you all handled there, I think. So, but Kai did have some questions, I think.
Okay,
Item 4, item 3 talks about it's a requirement to register your apprentice within 30 days or less. That's correct. The new item 4, an employer who fails to remove an apprentice from their company's registration within 30 days of termination of employment shall be subject to the same disciplinary action of the board. I don't discount that, but I have found when I go to my plumbing contractors current information page, I cannot remove those apprentices. I can only mark them as inactive. And on that sheet, there's a column for end date, and I cannot enter anything into that end date to show when they actually left. I understand the purpose of possibly leaving them there for record keeping as inactive, but
Yes.
there should be some clarification here. I don't know if it's the program that's the problem.
Yeah, if we could, instead of remove, maybe change that to inactivate.
Or simply mark as inactive on your contractor information page. And Joyce, I don't know if Renee's who's going to need to follow up with that. I've sent some emails to a couple of people there in licensing. I haven't gotten any response
Okay.
from this. And I have, if you look at any contractor, you'll see the end dates for those inactive apprentices. None of those are filled in.
Right.
And it's because you can't. So
Yeah.
something's amiss there.
Great. If Darcy, if you could just make that note, if that's okay, and then I'll make sure to follow up with our IT.
do you mind saying it again, Kai or Joyce, what you want me to add here?
An employer who fails to,
Oh, no, it's just the follow-up. I think if we do the inactivate, Kai, if that's okay.
And
yeah,
then
that would be fine.
Yeah.
just put a
And
note that Joyce will follow up with licensing.
yeah, with regarding the technical side, because they're not able to add an end date.
And you might, well, if you say inactivate, you can go in and inactivate it, mark them as inactivated without adding an end date. So you might want to add into your verbiage that they must enter an end date or last day of employment, however you want to word that, it's fine.
Yeah, because the date that the contractor does it is not necessarily the
Correct, yeah.
same date. Yeah.
Can't want an automatic population on that column.
Great. Thank you, Kai. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Is this you, Joyce?
Yes. So then, let's see. All right, we get down to the application and licensing section. Most of this just seeks to remove the requirement for approvals prior to examination, because the process has changed where the applicant goes to the attests that they've met the qualifications, so they do not come to the board prior. to taking and passing the examination. These changes have already been made for a few years. And so as of December 1, 2019, you'll note there, individuals go to the testing administrator. They, by virtue of signing up and taking the examinations, they go through a series where they have to attest that they meet the qualifications for licensure. And then only after they pass the examination do they make application with the board. And so these revisions here seek to capture that. This does save the individual's application fees if they aren't able to pass the examinations.
Could I interject, Joyce?
Yes.
Where it says all applications for licensure or registrations, are there any registrations other than apprentice registrations?
Contractor registrations. And so what that is saying is
Okay.
all applications for licensure or registration shall be submitted to the division and occupations.
Got it. Okay, I understand that
Yeah.
everybody confuses, says that PC is a contractor license. It's just a registration. I appreciate that.
Right.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
clarification. I didn't want printers looking at that and go, oh, no, I can't register. So
All right. And then B, that B section, just clarifies that the candidates for licensure will be issued upon successful passing of the respective examination and meeting the qualifications within that section. And then I believe the one on reinstatement is just a drafting error, where it should have been AB, not AC. That section L just provides for an address change online with our system. Didn't designate that prior.
may I
Yes.
have a quick question? Go back up just a little bit, Darcy, where it talks about the board's secure online system. The licensee or registrant shall inform the board through this secure online system as available. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand that, but reading it through, I do now. Okay, thank you.
This next section E, this already captures what has been in practice, but it allows the division to conduct the administrative business with the examination vendor, including contract review and procurement. This is just one of those things I feel like it's always been in place, but as we get into having a more detailed description of how we do things, we wanted to incorporate this in writing, that the division has the authority to work on the examination contracts and those types of things instead of those things going to the board. Again, this is as it's already in practice. We are just codifying it in rule. And then I think the last thing I have is the incorporation of violation in the violations section and the fine chart to include a section for applying for a plumbing permit if not qualified applicant. It falls in line with the one right above it, failure to obtain a permit and or failure to obtain an inspection. The House Bill 22-1364 or 46, I'm sorry, sought to define, not change, but further define who can obtain a permit, which would be a plumbing contractor or a homeowner, but it expands that to the master plumber who works for a plumbing contractor. Again, I just clarifying, it allows in that new House bill for a fine for that violation. So we just added it to the chart. And that is all.
Alrighty. So if there isn't anything else, I don't see any other comments in the Q&A. And I just wanted to look really quickly, Joyce, because I know I have the date of the hearing, but I do believe we're having a second stakeholder meeting. I don't have that date right in front of me, but I wanted to make sure people are aware of it. So let me get that up. And then we will wrap up and, like I said, discuss next steps. Okay.
That would, yeah,
January
January
27th. Yeah, now I see it. Thanks, Joyce.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So thank you again for participating in today's meeting and for the feedback and discussion. As we mentioned at the beginning, all comments and program recommendations will be provided to the board for review and consideration before the board deliberates on the final version of the rules at the permanent rulemaking hearing, which is tentatively scheduled for February 22nd, 2023. Prior to that, there will be another stakeholder meeting that's scheduled for January 27th, 2023. So you'll receive notice of that meeting. And like I mentioned earlier, the best place to stay up to date outside of emails that we send is the board's website and the public notices tab. We will continue to post comments as we receive them, continue to post the draft rules. So I will make sure that this version of the rules gets updated onto the website so you can see the comments that were included from today. And then if you want to send any written comments, you can email them to the email address that's on the notice. It's Dora_DPO_rulemaking@state.co.us. So unless Joyce or John or anyone else have any final comments, that will conclude our meeting, and thank you again for your help.
Don't have anything. Thank you, Darcy.
Thank you, John.